Over the past few months, I've released a lot of videos about upcoming open-world games, and at some point I realized it was time to put everything together. I went back through my videos, picked out the strongest projects, and created one big complete list of the most anticipated upcoming open-world games that could define the next few years. In this new chapter of the LEGO Batman saga, you're no longer confined to small levels or bite-sized missions. You're unleashed into a fully open-world Gotham built from top to bottom in that charming LEGO style. You roam neon-lit streets, glide from crooked rooftops, crawl through alleys dripping with crime and mystery, and feel like the Dark Knight even in miniature brick form. This story ties together the biggest pieces of Batman's legacy: the gritty comics, the iconic films, the legendary games. You follow Bruce Wayne from the earliest echoes of his training with the League of Shadows all the way to the moment he rises as Gotham's watchful protector.
Oh, you think darkness is your ally? Who put that there? I could have really hurt myself.
Neverness to Everness drops you into a supernatural urban sprawl where the ordinary and the impossible collide. Built on Unreal Engine 5 by Hada Studio, the city of Hetero feels alive, modern, and just slightly wrong, shimmering at the edges as anomalies twist reality. You play as an appraiser, someone who doesn't run from the strange but steps directly into it, investigating, containing, and even weaponizing supernatural disturbances. Movement is wide open. You sprint across sidewalks, scale structures, dive into rivers, and tear through streets in modifiable vehicles. Cars aren't just a convenience, they become an extension of your identity. Where Winds Meet throws you straight into the turmoil and beauty of 10th century China, during the era of the 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms. You step into the boots of a young swordsman whose past is blurred by secrets and whose future is shaped by every choice you make. The world stretches across more than 20 regions, each lush, alive, and filled with over 10,000 NPCs whose lives shift depending on your actions. You choose whether to be a protector, a wanderer, or even an outlaw. The world remembers what you do and reacts accordingly. It's a sweeping martial arts open world built on exploration, drama, and the chance to forge your own legend. Chrono Odyssey stands at the crossroads of ambition and reinvention, an MMO-style fantasy adventure set in the mystical land of Cetera, where time itself bends and warps. You wield power not just through weapons and magic, but through the manipulation of time, shaping battles and strategies with impossible precision. But the journey hasn't been smooth. After internal tests revealed optimization issues and rough edges, the developers pulled back for a major overhaul, reworking lighting, graphics, and core systems. The closed beta in June 2025 confirmed both the scale of the project and the challenges ahead. Now the game is aiming for a global release in the 4th quarter of 2026, with the promise of turning its gorgeous world and ambitious mechanics into something truly transformative if the team can pull it together.
My hand. Return to the past. Neither man nor God, living.
Silver Palace invites you into the shimmering, steam-filled alleys of Silvernia, a Victorian industrial metropolis powered by the mysterious substance Silverium. You play a detective returning home, only to find the city tangled in the schemes of corporations hungry for control, criminal underworlds sharpening their knives, cults whispering in the shadows, and royal intrigue threatening to erupt. You lead a party you can switch between in real time, each character contributing their own skills to combat, investigation, and traversal grappling hooks let you swing between towers. Flying mounts carry you across the skyline, and battles blend melee intensity with stylish shooting. This anime-inspired world hums with secrets, ambition, and danger, an entire city built on mystery and corruption waiting for you to unravel its truth.
fairy tale. You are the author.
Little Devil Inside brings you into a peculiar Victorian-era world where the line between reality and the supernatural has quietly collapsed. You play as an explorer for hire, roaming remote lands and haunted regions to investigate paranormal disturbances and confront monstrous threats. The game mixes action, survival, and strange atmospheric quiet, moments where the world feels eerie, beautiful, and unpredictable. But behind the scenes, the development has been turbulent. Years of silence, delays, and uncertainty led to a candid update in 2024 where the downsized team reassured fans that the project is still breathing. What remains is a uniquely stylized adventure full of personality, mystery, and danger. A journey through a world where every expedition feels like stepping into a storybook laced with nightmares. Mortal Shell 2 returns with the cold, metallic bite that defined the original, but now the world opens wider, darker, and far more brutal. The developers have confirmed a massive expansion in scale, a larger open world, far more freedom of movement, and an arsenal of new weapons and shells you can customize in depth. Over 60 dungeons are hinted, each promising punishing enemies and atmosphere thick enough to choke on. Bosses tower larger, landscapes sprawl farther, and the combat sharpens into something even more unforgiving. Coming to PS5, Xbox, and PC, the game is targeting a release in 2026, promising a Souls-like adventure drenched in heavy metal energy, grim determination, and the fantasy of wielding fallen warriors' bodies as your own. Showa American Story hits you with a bizarre blend of retro neon zombie horror and 80s-style Japanese pop culture, all set in a twisted version of post-apocalyptic America. You play as Chuko, a girl resurrected into this chaotic world where Japanese influences have overtaken the ruins of the United States. The landscape is a fever dream of old-school posters, neon arcades, decrepit diners, mutated monsters, and hordes of zombies. Combat is fast, bloody, and stylish, pushing you through waves of enemies with a mix of flair and brutality. Beneath all the absurdity lies a gritty survival RPG adventure where nostalgia collides with grime, and every fight feels like a B-movie brought to life with sharp action and humor.
てる女を人間大砲で空に打ち上げれば空に輝く星になるんだ
Of Peaks and Tides throws you into an open-world survival sandbox shaped by ancient Eastern mythology and living, reactive physics. The world isn't just a backdrop, it transforms with your actions. You build settlements, craft tools, tame chaos, and survive shifting natural disasters like floods, blizzards, sandstorms, and storms that roar out of nowhere. You can play alone or join others as you face colossal beasts, mystical forces, and divine wrath. Every structure you build, every resource you gather, every choice you make feeds into a system designed around freedom and emergence rather than a fixed narrative. It's a world where survival means bending the elements, carving your own story, and standing your ground as the forces of nature rise against you. In Forza Horizon 6, you roar into the glowing heart of Japan, where neon arteries pulse through the cities and quiet mountain roads whisper old stories of drifting legends. The Horizon Festival unleashes you across Tokyo's electric maze, serene rice fields, snowy alpine passes, and highways drenched in cherry blossom pink. You arrive not as a hero, but as a newcomer, hungry to carve your own legacy into the asphalt. With each drift, jump, and full-throttle sprint, you feel the cultures, the atmospheres, and the raw automotive passion shaping the journey. Seasons shift, the weather breathes, and every road becomes an invitation to master speed. Whether you're racing friends, tuning your dream machines, or chasing the perfect line through mountain night fog, this chapter is all about defining who you are in a world built for pure velocity. In the Outer Worlds 2, you step into the boots of an agent working under the Earth Directorate, sent to investigate strange disturbances in the star system of Arcadia, a place where reality itself is beginning to unravel. What starts as a routine mission quickly cracks open into a war of factions, secrets, and shifting alliances, with rifts tearing through space and time. You explore alien landscapes that bend the rules of nature, confront corporations hungry for power, and navigate the thin line between order and chaos. Every decision spirals outward, changing not just the worlds you visit, but the people who inhabit them. You're not simply uncovering a threat, you're confronting the fracture within the universe and within yourself, forced to question who you truly are in a cosmos collapsing under the weight of its own contradictions.
But don't worry, you can still just blow shit up if you want. Best! At the center of it all is...
You know when you
Aion 2 drops you 2 centuries after the shattering of Atreia into an era where the Tower of Aion lies broken and the wings of the Daivas are no longer the symbols of dominance. They once were Elios and Asmodeans, once divided by hatred, now hover somewhere between rivalry, memory, and uneasy change. You enter this world as a new hero, rising among floating isles, shimmering skies and ancient ruins, humming with forgotten power. Combat has shifted from flight-based skirmishes to more grounded visceral action, reshaping the very way battles unfold. 8 new classes carve their own destinies through this world in recovery, each fighting for identity as the fabric of Atreia continues to fray. Your story becomes a bridge between what was lost and what might yet be rebuilt. A journey across skies that once carried angels, now shadowed by something new. Star Wars Eclipse takes you far beyond the age of emperors and rebellions, deep into the height of the Jedi. A golden era where the galaxy glows with hope, diplomacy, and discovery. But in the uncharted Outer Rim, beneath calm horizons and starlit skies, tensions simmer and destinies intertwine. You don't play a single hero, you live through multiple characters, each weaving into a branching narrative where every choice sends ripples through entire planets. Newly seen alien cultures, untouched worlds, fragile alliances, every decision can tip the scale toward harmony or conflict. This is the Star Wars galaxy before the shadows, when brilliance and danger walked side by side, and when a single action could define the fate of civilizations. Your path isn't just a journey, it's the creation of a legend. Nioh 3 thrusts you into a world where betrayal and destiny collide under the weight of a crumbling Japan. You play as Tokugawa Takechio, the heir meant to ascend as the next shogun, only to be consumed by treachery as his resentful brother rallies an army of yokai to seize power. Time fractures, temples fall into ruin, and warps in fate twist the land into something haunted and unstable. You advance through mist-shrouded fields and cursed battlegrounds, shifting fluidly between disciplined samurai technique and shadow-born ninja agility. The world opens wider than in previous chapters, but still carries the punishing Souls-like intensity that defines the series. Every strike echoes with the weight of legacy and vengeance, as Takechio battles both the monsters outside and the darkness clawing at his destiny.
How foolish of you to have entered the depth.
The Legend of Khiimori carries you across the boundless steppes of 13th century Mongolia, where you ride as a lone courier bound to a horse of extraordinary lineage. The land stretches endlessly, windswept plains, distant mountains, and nomadic camps filled with tradition and uncertainty. Survival depends on your bond with your steed, mastering archery, reading the land, and uncovering ancient mysteries tied to the mythical wind horse known as the Khiimori Rumors. Speak of a spirit galloping across the sky, its presence tangled with fate, nature, and the soul of every rider. Your mission is more than delivering messages. It's a spiritual journey into the heartbeat of the earth and the essence of freedom that defines life on the steppe.
Ride, simply to follow the wind. I ride to remember where I come from.
Crimson Desert casts you into the war-torn realm of Pywell, a land once united but now shattered into roaming monsters, floating islands, and hostile factions clawing for dominance. You follow Cliff, battle-hardened leader of the Greymanes whose world collapses when betrayal strikes and his stronghold falls. Left with scattered allies and a broken legacy, he must rebuild his mercenary band and reclaim his honor. The journey sweeps you through political intrigue, savage warfare, and ancient secrets buried beneath the continent's fractured surface. Fire and steel shape your path as you overthrow tyrants, form uneasy alliances, and confront the enemy who destroyed everything you once commanded. The fate of Pywell hangs on whether you fight simply to survive or to lead a war that could reshape history.
We seek to correct this.
The Witcher 4 turns its gaze towards Ciri, the child of prophecy who has grown into a warrior wrestling with her power, her past, and her place. In a continent that will not stop changing, Geralt's era lingers in shadows and memories, but the world now looks to Ciri as both protector and potential threat. Monsters evolve, politics shift like storms, and ancient prophecies rise once more. As Ciri takes contracts, explores desolate battlefields, and unearths secrets meant to stay buried, she begins forging her own identity as a Witcher. Her power is both a gift and a burden, a force shaping the land, the fate of others, and the path she must choose. This is her saga, her reckoning, and her chance to define what destiny means on her own terms.
No compromise means how ambitious we are when it comes to bringing our vision to life with trade and mining. It's one of those places where you can meet shady characters or overhear gossip. It's how responsive the world is. Character actions directly affect what happens around you, sometimes even setting off
Avatar
chain
from the Ashes places you in the skin of Solek, a hardened Na'vi warrior whose homeland has been scorched and whose clan lies scattered, broken by a ruthless alliance between the Ash clan and human invaders. You awaken into a Pandora twisted by fire and ruin. Forests turn to cinders, glowing rivers of ash carving across the land, and skies still choked with the smoke of war. To reclaim what was lost, you must rally the surviving clans, unite the wounded tribes, and relearn the rhythms of a world fighting to heal. Every leap, every arrow, every roar becomes part of your survival as you rise not only to defend Pandora, but to rekindle its spirit. This is a story of vengeance, unity, and the fire that remains when everything else has burned away.
In this time, you have nowhere left to go.
Babylon X unfolds in an alternate ancient world where gravity, magic, and science blend into a strange and unstable new reality. The kingdoms of Babylon and Egypt stand at the brink of collapse, cracking under ambition and the weight of power. You follow two intertwined destinies: Samson, a prophet turned fugitive burning with vengeance, and Leica, a young priestess of the moon cult pulled into a conspiracy older than recorded history. Together they wander through collapsing temples, soaring weightless towers, and sands hiding secrets capable of ending the world. Every choice reshapes alliances. Every truth uncovered pushes you closer to an apocalypse that may demand an unbearable sacrifice. Between prophecy and rebellion, Babylon X tells a story carved in starlight, shadow, and the final struggle for a world slipping toward oblivion.
You can run away from yourself as long as you want, but don't abandon those who are dear to you. What gives you no peace? Wandering through God-forsaken lands, putting your life in danger.
Light No Fire emerges as an audacious new fantasy survival sandbox from Hello Games, the very team behind No Man's Sky. But instead of scattering players across infinite planets and vast star systems, this project drops you onto a single planet the size of Earth itself. The world stretches out like an unbroken tapestry of sprawling biomes, towering mountains, deep oceans, fantastical creatures, dragons soaring through the skies, hidden settlements, and a complete crafting and building ecosystem that lets you shape your place in this massive realm. The tone is enormous and adventurous, blending open-world exploration with survival, role-playing layers, and even social or multiplayer potential, giving you the freedom to sail across seas, venture into wilderness, construct your own structures, or take to the skies on the back of a dragon. Essentially imagining what No Man's Sky would feel like if it traded sci-fi for wild, high fantasy, yet kept that same sense of limitless sandbox possibility. Swords of Legends arrives as a newly revealed single-player action RPG from Aragon Shanghai, known for its work within the larger Gujian universe, and it made its global debut at Gamescom 2025, powered by Unreal Engine 5, and crafted specifically to bring the rich Chinese fantasy roots of Gujian to an international audience for the very first time. The tone leans heavily into cinematic, mythological energy, with narrative depth, visual artistry, and a sweeping aesthetic that draws from traditional Chinese fantasy lore. Instead of aiming for a purely open-world format, the game follows a wide linear structure, giving players room to explore while still guiding them through carefully curated, story-driven paths that balance narrative focus with spatial freedom. The action RPG combat is designed with cinematic impact in mind, hinting at dramatic boss encounters and enemy designs shaped by folklore and high fantasy inspiration, promising a blend of narrative immersion, exploration, and stylish action rooted in the Gujian legacy.
Fallen leaves return to their roots.
Soulframe continues to take shape as a fantasy action RPG from Digital Extremes, the creators of Warframe, and the project is presently in its Preludes phase, a pre-alpha testing period that has already offered public builds to players. As of November 2025, the team launched Preludes 12 alongside a Founders Program, adding new gameplay layers such as a revised Greatsword grip, runes, totems, new encounter types, and improved onboarding and tutorials, all reflecting active development and direct engagement with the growing community. The experience aims for a mystical, magical fantasy world, filled with envoys, pacts, transformative abilities, weapons and spellcraft, atmospheric environments, and cooperative online features that distance it from the sci-fi tone of its predecessor. The developers emphasize that the project has no fixed release date and that the Preludes phase will continue for as long as needed until the game's systems, story, and world feel polished, complete, and true to their vision, shaping Soulframe in partnership with player feedback.
Find me. For sneaky. Stole the golden ash for it from sacred tree. And Seren.
Mortem presents itself as a brutal multiplayer medieval melee slasher set within a dark, decaying fantasy world known as Contrara, where players step into the role of vessels, tortured souls bound to an endless cycle of combat, whether journeying alone or fighting alongside others. The game supports both first-person and third-person perspectives, offering co-op opportunities to descend with friends into the twisted domains of ancient deities, as well as PvP modes that range from team-based clashes to intense one-on-one duels. Its combat system is built on the promise of depth paired with accessibility. Straightforward enough for newcomers to learn, yet challenging to master through precision, timing, and adaptability. Progression and loot systems support long-term investment as each vessel unlocks new weapons, upgrades, and escalating challenges through survival and victory. Ad Mortem shapes itself as a grim, skill-driven battleground where every fight pushes players deeper into the tormented heart of Contrara.
Check out our Kickstarter trailer, and I hope you enjoyed it. Ad Mortem is a passion project.
Solasta 2 steps forward as the official sequel to Solasta Crown of the Magister, carrying the tactical RPG legacy into a new generation under the direction of Tactical Adventures, and now built on Unreal Engine 5 to deliver richer environments, sharper visuals, and a more polished technical foundation. The game is confirmed to launch in early access in Q1 2026 on PC through Steam, meaning players can expect to enter the world sometime between January and March of that year. This early access version already promises a fully customizable party of 4 adventurers, a complete character creator, 6 available classes including Wizard, Sorcerer, Paladin, Fighter, Rogue, and Cleric, as well as 4 ancestries consisting of Human, Elf, Dwarf, and Halfling, all with multi-classing supported from the start. Combat remains faithful to the tabletop-inspired rules that defined the first game, embracing turn-based tactics, verticality, and deliberate strategic decision-making, now enhanced with improvements aimed at refining the flow and depth of encounters. My IR5 continues to take shape as a next-generation MMORPG from We Made Next, built on modern technology, currently Unreal Engine 5, and designed as a living open world where exploration, crafting, production systems, and a dynamic player-driven economy form the backbone of the experience. The developers envision a sandbox structure that allows players to find value even outside traditional combat, ensuring that those who progress more slowly in battle can still thrive through gathering, crafting, or economic influence, creating a more balanced ecosystem than typical combat-focused MMORPGs. One of MIR5's standout promises lies in its implementation of advanced AI-driven bosses and enemies, powered by NVIDIA's Ace AI platform, meaning certain encounters may adapt or respond in more reactive and dynamic ways than what is usually seen in the genre. Overall, MIR5 positions itself as an MMORPG, where combat, exploration, profession-based gameplay, and a shifting world economy coexist, offering a broad range of playstyles within the evolving legacy of the MIR franchise. The Wayward Realms is being crafted by Once Lost Games, a studio founded by veterans responsible for the earliest entries of the Elder Scrolls, and they aim to create what they call a grand RPG, a fantasy world of massive scale built across a procedurally generated archipelago of more than 100 islands. Players can expect a world overflowing with diverse races, including humans, elves, and dwarves, complex faction politics, a shifting world state, deep crafting, spell creation, travel by horse or boat, and significantly layered role-playing systems shaped by reputation, class choices, and the long-term consequences of player decisions. In late 2025, the developers announced a major shift in direction, abandoning Unreal Engine 5 in favor of a proprietary engine that would give them more control over performance, loading systems, and the demands of such an enormous world, with hopes that this will result in a smoother and more flexible experience overall. Due to this engine transition, the release timeline has shifted. Early access for backers is now targeted for June 2026, with a broader public release following afterward.
Now let's be on our way. We have our goal, but there will be some obstacles in the way. Not the friendly sort. Maybe he just needs a little...
Vindictus Defying Fate represents a new action RPG project from Nexon, reimagining elements of the earlier Vindictus experience with a more modern combat system, online co-op functionality, and a lineup of characters each defined by unique action-oriented fighting styles. The gameplay emphasizes precision and impact, staying true to the philosophy that every hit matters, with dodges, counters, heavy strikes, and timing forming the heart of combat. In June 2025, a global public alpha test ran from the 8th to the 16th on PC through Steam, giving players a chance to experience multiple playable characters, dungeon-style level design and cooperative features. For now, the release date remains unconfirmed, with the store page listing the status simply as "to be announced." And while PC is guaranteed, possible console versions for PS5 and Xbox are only hinted at, with no official commitments or launch windows revealed so far. Vindictus Defying Fate stands as a work in progress, energetic, stylish, and shaped by early player feedback, but still without a fixed timeline for its arrival. ArcheAge Chronicles emerges as the next evolution of the ArcheAge franchise, developed by XL Games and published by Kakao Games, revealed in 2024 during a State of Play showcase and planned for release in 2026 across PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox. The game blends MMO systems with action RPG combat, offering a large open world where real-time battles replace the older tab target structure and where players can embark on exploration-heavy adventures, join large-scale raids, participate in co-op activities, cultivate life skills like crafting and trading, and build homes within the vibrant fantasy world of Auroria. Beyond combat and exploration, the game highlights social systems, player housing, a trade economy, and other sandbox elements to expand player agency beyond fighting alone, positioning itself as a hybrid of MMO freedom, action RPG dynamism, and life sim depth. ArcheAge Chronicles looks to deliver a broad and varied world where crafting, combat, social interactions, and exploration all carry equal weight, building on the strengths of the original franchise while transitioning toward a more modern action-first foundation.
Slaughtered each other until the whole world lay in ruins.
Fable returns as a full-scale reboot of the beloved fantasy RPG series, developed by Playground Games with support from additional studios and published by Xbox Game Studios, reimagining the legendary world of Albion with modern technology and next-gen storytelling. The game brings back everything fans associate with the franchise: the playful humor, the charm, the moral choice system that lets your actions shape who you become, all now wrapped in a contemporary visual style and richer RPG design philosophy. Originally aiming for a 2025 launch, the developers confirmed in February 2025 that the release has been pushed to 2026, giving the team more time to refine Albion's world and systems. Official platforms include Windows and Xbox, with long-running speculation among fans hinting at potential versions on other systems, such as PS5, though no public confirmation has ever been given. The reboot stands as a complete reawakening of Fable's identity, blending nostalgia with fresh ambition as Albion prepares for its modern return.
I'm a hero. I should do what I want.
You thought you could save her?
You know, talent, the power. She was something else, all right. It's your life and death stuff. That's what defines you, isn't it?
Project Awakening continues to linger in development as a high fantasy action RPG from Saigamez Osaka, initially unveiled years ago and envisioned as a console-focused adventure that merges sweeping fantasy landscapes with fluid action and deep RPG elements. Although the project has remained quiet publicly, it still appears among Cygame's future development plans beyond fiscal year 2024, signaling that it remains active despite the long silence. No release date has been confirmed, leaving the game officially in a TBA state, and its original platform plans, once centered around PlayStation, initially even PS4, have not been clarified or updated for modern hardware or PC. Project Awakening persists as an intriguing, ambitious title still wrapped in mystery, waiting for the moment Cygames decides to pull back the curtain again. Fatekeeper stands as a first-person dark fantasy RPG from Paraglacial and published by THQ Nordic, drawing players into a world of melee and magic combat, atmospheric exploration, and layered character progression across strength, precision, and sorcery paths. Its environments span ruins, forests, caves, and ancient sanctuaries, emphasizing a rich sense of place supported by physics-driven action where clashes of steel feel heavy and spells burst with impact. Enemies react dynamically, Battles allow smart use of the environment, knocking foes from cliffs, hurling objects, or using barrels and traps, while a bestiary of human adversaries and monstrous creatures, including lizard-like beasts and massive bosses, waits to challenge players. Rather than a vast open world, Fatekeeper is built around carefully crafted zones, with focused exploration, loot discovery, and narrative momentum, offering a curated adventure where every encounter feels deliberate and weighty. Return to Nangrim unfolds as a dark first-person fantasy adventure that blends survival mechanics with RPG elements, thrusting players into hostile mountain regions, abandoned dwarven cities, and ominous caverns steeped in ancient history. Crafting and survival lie at the heart of the experience, forging weapons and armor, managing resources, wielding torches to cut through suffocating darkness, and navigating dangerously atmospheric environments where threats lurk unseen. The game weaves a heavy lore focus throughout its world. You retrace the fate of a forgotten dwarven people, decipher a fictional runic language, solve environmental puzzles, explore old sanctuaries, and uncover long-buried secrets within the mountain realms. Alongside the traditional PC experience, the developers also highlight VR support, offering an even more immersive and tense descent into Nangrim's haunting depths. Darkcraft introduces itself as a free-to-play MMORPG blending Souls-like combat with an open-world dark fantasy structure, letting players roam a grim landscape of ruined castles, temples, dungeons, and desolate wilderness, while choosing whether to journey alone, team up, or engage in PvP battles. Combat draws heavily from the Souls tradition, promising challenging encounters, punishing enemy behavior, and boss fights built around observation, timing, and precision, now translated into a shared world multiplayer setting rather than isolated solo spaces. Exploration spans open regions filled with guild systems, cooperative boss hunts, dungeon runs, and optional player vs player clashes, for those who dare to test their skills against others. Darkcraft aims to merge MMO scale with the intensity and weight of Souls-like combat, delivering a world where danger is constant and every victory feels earned.
Silence breaks, and he awakens.
The Blood of Dawnwalker unfolds as a dark fantasy action RPG from Rebel Wolves, built on Unreal Engine 5 and set in a grim vampire-tainted vision of 14th century Europe where war, plague, and political collapse shape every corner of the land. You step into the conflicted life of Cohen, a Dawnwalker, a being caught between humanity and vampirism, capable of swordplay and possible magical skills under the daylight, yet becoming something far more dangerous once night falls, when supernatural movement, claws, vampiric abilities, and blood-draining powers awaken. The world is draped in an oppressive medieval atmosphere, filled with villages on the edge of ruin, forests, swamps, mountains, ruined castles, and nightmarish creatures that walk freely through the shadows. The game is described as a narrative sandbox, giving players the freedom to approach quests through combat, stealth, or diplomacy, while a meaningful day-night cycle continually shifts how the world responds to you. The Vernyhorn presents itself as a dark, open-world RPG inspired by early medieval Slavic and Eastern European landscapes, using real-world architecture, wilderness, and folklore to create a gritty blend of survival role-playing and grounded realism. Instead of vast empty plains, the developers aim for dense, atmospheric regions, from villages and forests to swamps, caves, and mountain paths, all either handcrafted or built through scanning techniques to preserve a strong sense of place. Combat is intentionally grounded and visceral, driven by real-world motion capture from fencing and martial arts professionals to ensure weight, impact, and authenticity in every sword clash. Survival elements such as harsh weather, cold resource management, and long-term planning play a vital role, reinforcing the idea that this world is not shaped by flashy fantasy tropes, but by the brutal realities of early medieval life. The Vernyhorn focuses on immersion, grounding, and atmosphere above all else.
It seemed innocent at first. But the truth...
From the early medieval community. It's very motivating.
All to the hit reaction.
Chronicles Medieval arrives as an ambitious sandbox. Medieval RPG developed by Raw Power Games, set within a world inspired by 14th to 15th century Europe and designed to let players rise from nothing to whatever path they choose, through diplomacy, commerce, construction, combat, or all-out warfare. The game emphasizes large-scale battles, realistic medieval combat, and siege warfare alongside castle or settlement building, troop recruitment, and a sandbox structure where political, economic, and martial decisions all meaningfully shape your journey. Planned to enter early access in 2026 on PC, the developers position this phase as an evolving work in progress, expanding through community feedback with more content, improved AI, additional systems, siege engines, diplomacy support, modding features, and further mechanics over time. Notably, although early statements toyed with the idea of using generative AI for asset production, the team later confirmed that all assets are now 100% handcrafted. A deliberate commitment to quality, immersion, and artisanal world building. The Elder Scrolls VI stands as one of the most anticipated RPGs in modern gaming, a project built on Creation Engine 2, the same technology that powered Starfield, and shaping the next evolution of Bethesda's open-world design. Official information confirms the game is currently targeting Windows on PC and Xbox, with strong expectations that it will debut on day one through Xbox Game Pass, reinforcing its position as a flagship title for the platform. Alkahest emerges as a gritty action-adventure RPG set in a murky medieval fantasy world that rejects traditional high fantasy magic in favor of grounded melee combat, heavy environmental interaction, and a deep alchemy system. You play as the youngest son of a petty lord, far from a chosen hero, creating a narrative driven by social tension, political struggle, and a climb from obscurity rather than mythic destiny. Combat is dynamic and improvisational, encouraging the use of weapons, fire, cliffs, trees, ropes, throwable concoctions, oils, and countless environmental hazards, allowing players to manipulate the battlefield creatively. Instead of spellcasting, the game relies on alchemy and physics-based interactions to build flexibility and player-driven strategy, rewarding cleverness, preparation, and experimentation over traditional magical power. Alkahest positions itself as a raw, physical, atmospheric medieval experience shaped by grit, ingenuity, and grounded world building,